Sup Shredders, my name is Logan aka Spiderhands and welcome to an SP Reviews, where today we have ourselves a track from an act named Friday Dies titled Bullshit Artist. And if we switch over to here, we have ourselves a track on the screen on YouTube, the artist lyric video, and we're going to listen through this from start to finish and we're going to hear what we think. Let's do this. Hella heavy off the bat. Kind of reminds me of some of the early 90s metal. The tone of the guitars and stuff. I dig it. I think it's great. It sounds real organic with the sound of the kicks as well as the bass there. Or like 80s stuff, late 80s. Definitely harkening back to some of the sort of early, late 80s thrash stuff there with the vocal style. Too much of what you want, not what you need. Sick. I like the lines as well. The lyrics are great, and there's a lot of variation in the instrumental performance behind it as well. It's solid. The neoclassical elements are kind of a sick sort of vibe to add to it as well. I appreciate the thrasher elements of the power chords with the double kicks and everything like that. And we've got a lot of moving around the drum kit, which I also appreciate, but it's also just combining those sort of more melodic elements great. I mean, just the variation with like the cymbal grooves and everything as well, you know. Back to that original motif. I think when you've had this much variety within a composition, you get away with having a bit of repetition at the end, just to kind of enforce it. Slick. No, I'm actually really impressed with that. There was just a lot of really cool ideas in there that we explored thoroughly. The vocal style was very sort of sincere and authentic to the style of guitar, bass, and drums that we were going with. We're going to talk about all this more in the conclusion. Because welcome to the conclusion of my review of this track from an act named Friday Dies, titled Bullshit Artist. What do I think this is about? I think this track is about someone commenting on the people up in the higher rungs, the higher echelon, who are taking advantage of the people below them and taking from them simply to suit their own means. It's basically selling your soul to corporations and stuff like that, I assume, or anything like that. I think that's... And now, more than ever, or just as much as ever, that is especially sort of like I'm cognizant of the situation with how the world is at the moment. I think a lot of people are probably feeling very similarly, at least are aware of this, and I imagine there'd be an audience for people who are quite sort of fed up with that. So I think that it's a good time, more than ever, to release music like this. I think the way that it was sung was tremendous. We had that sort of, again, I hate to be reductive about it, like sort of like a thrashy kind of aesthetic to the way we were sort of like shouting some of those vocal lines into it. It was melodic. There was some sort of like effort to kind of harmonize it with the rest of the elements of the mix, but it was more about like sort of like communicating the anger and that frustration through it in a way that was sincere, because you can't really get away with half-assing vocals in a genre like this. And I think that we did really well to encapsulate our influences whilst also having our own sort of voice and also sort of getting it sort of in a sense of rhythmic unison with the rest of the other rhythmic elements of the mix, like the drums and bass, because there's a lot going on with those parts in the arrangement. I think ultimately we showed great vocal technique. I couldn't have asked for more. Well done. The track itself, for 4 minutes 28, there was a lot of variety, as I've said, a lot of diversity within it. I think that we did a tremendous job of conveying the chaos, the oppression, the feelings of disdain for, like, again, people in like high positions who are taking advantage of us. The music communicated that in staves, but what we also did was we created a really compelling listening experience. From the start there, where we introduced the instruments quite quickly, we did not hesitate to get the guitars, bass, and drums in there, the main components of the mix there. And you'd think that at the start, if we had that much immediately, it would potentially be less interesting, but that's not the case. We had distinct different parts of the track structurally where we tried different riffs and different chord progressions and different sort of chugged parts. We had solo sections and different sort of like movements on the bass and drums and such, and we were not allowing ourselves to stay in one point for too long. Even at the end, where we were very sort of like comfortable, I think, for what we were trying to communicate with that riff there, we knew the point to shake it up and do something different. And this track was outside the 2 to 4 minute sweet spot, but I think in this situation, that was not a detriment. We did more than enough to make it worthwhile listening through the whole thing. If I talk about a few of the instruments I enjoyed, I appreciated the sound and the way the guitar was played. The sound is more of a sort of audio post-production thing, so I'll talk about it in that section. But the actual playing was really solid. We were really tight with our rhythm grooves with the different sort of string set parts and chugged kind of power chords and all that kind of stuff. We had some sort of like, it wasn't just all chugging, but it was heavy when it needed to be. We had some slower and some faster sections and changes with the speed of those parts. We also had some really slick sort of swept solo, the kind of leady bits there with a couple of dedicated sort of solo sections away from the vocals, and I think that was tremendous. We needed that. It was good to have an alternate lead voice in a track where there weren't a lot of different instrumental layers. We had really fantastic rhythmic phrasing there. The harmonies were dope. They weren't friendly and pretty and colorful and charming. They were ferocious, and I think that's authentic to what we were trying to accomplish with the lyrics and vocals, so it makes perfect sense to me. The bass as well had a great tone to it. It managed to find its way into a mix, which was very raw, but in a way where it elevated it. I think it was nice and sort of present in the mid and low ranges there. We harmonized neatly underneath the root notes of the chord progressions on the guitars and stuff like that. And we also were very tight with how we sort of stayed in sort of shape with we're also really tight with how we played the parts when we needed to be a bit quicker and stuff like that. So the things were good there. The drums were tight. Like, it wasn't like, you could tell they didn't sort of like quantize it to like a metronome or something like that and try to make it absolutely perfect, but it sounded like a live performance. It sounded like the drummer definitely knew what they want to accomplish. And I think that they did a tremendous job of keeping it like real. Like, I know this sounds so generic, but what I mean is that they played well, but it also wasn't, it was like it actually felt like a human being was playing the drums there. And there was so many different grooves and sort of cymbal and kick patterns there. They were all distinctive and memorable. And when they came in, you're like, oh, it's like meeting an old friend again after a while. There were slick transitions between parts there. The drums helped keep everything together. It was a fast track. We switched between like normal time and half time and stuff like that. And it was sick. It was really good. The combination of those different instruments with the progressions that we had and just the chromatics as well as like the minor tonality there, it inferred a sense of chaos and aggression there that I think is fitting for the lyrics and vocals. The chord progressions and patterns, the wide variety of different ideas there illustrated maybe like an emotional cycle we were going through, but ultimately led into the fact that we're just completely done with their bullshit, because they're bullshit artists. And so I think that the performance was tight. The motifs communicated emotionally and musically what they needed to. The composition was solid, and I don't think there was a note out of place. But the studio recording, mixing, and mastering, I think they definitely tried to do it in a way which reflected, again, the tone of a lot of music from the late 80s and early 90s in the metal genre. And I think that was a tremendous choice because it makes me feel nostalgic for it. I mean, I wasn't, like, I was a 90s kid. I was a 90s baby, like I grew up. I was a teenager in the mid 2000s, but like I've listened to a lot of stuff from late 80s, like sort of Metallica and Slayer and stuff like that. I can hear glimpses of those kind of like those sounds within this, and I think that it's fantastic. There's more range to it. I know it wasn't just Slayer and Metallica, but I'm trying not to be reductive about it. But it also reminds me of a lot of the early 90s kind of like metal bands, like the death metal bands, kind of like the guitar tones and stuff like that. It's not meant to be pretty and perfect and pristine. It's meant to be brutal, and they nailed that here. I think they captured the guitars really eloquently. They were savage, but it made sense for what we were trying to do. The bass and the drums as well. Well, they weren't over-processed. Things were neatly sort of like stacked in the frequency spectrum without any resonant frequencies. Things were nice and wide in the stereo field. The music surrounded you. The leveling was pretty much where it needed to be. The kicks could have potentially been like 0.5 dB lower, but then also it's like, do we want to sort of like do more with them than we have? I think if you're wanting, again, a quote organic mix, you've definitely got it here. It was still really pleasant to listen to, and I enjoyed it. You still kind of nod your head along to it and follow. It's just sometimes the guitars are like a little bit quiet in the mix, like the lead guitars. But either way, the vocals were on top. Things were where they needed to be. There was dynamic range to this, and it was nice and low without pumping to the bus compression, and limiting was handled. I mean, effectively, this is my review of this track from an act named Friday Dies, titled Bullshit Artist. I had a great time with it, and hopefully you did too. If you enjoyed it, please go check out the main various social medias and the YouTube page, and stay cool and stay safe. And please remember to support your local musicians and artists at this point in time, as they need all the help more than ever with all the crazy stuff going on in the world. And I'll catch you in the next review. Spider Hands out.